Well, hello, all you happy people. How you doing? I almost forgot how to speak there for a minute. Hello, all you happy people. There we go. I know it's been a while since I've been here, but been getting some stuff done and dealing with some stuff and whatnot. Mind you, the big thing I had to do tonight, right before the show, was decide which hat to wear because my Panthers are on a 3-game win streak, and that's probably not going to last much longer. So I had this hat to choose from. But then I also have my Dodgers. So I had to choose. Going to the World Series, won 3 games. Sadly, it's been a long time since the Panthers had a winning record, so I went with the Panthers. So that should be all the sports talk tonight. Well, maybe one more little bit, but hey, Ed, good to see you. Hello to everybody else out there. It has been a little bit of time, but that's the first order of business I need to mention is the show. I really want to get back to doing this show regularly. The problem is that, as you guys know, I am in a relationship and Lisa has moved in and she has gotten a job and is back to work. So Saturday evenings and Sunday evenings and stuff, that's our big time to spend together. So after dinner, we usually just spend the evening together. And, after dinner was when I was doing my show. So I think I'm going to try this time slot. This allows me to come and chat with all of you at, 4 p.m. my time, 5, 6, 7 o'clock, depending on where you are. Or if you're in Hawaii, I don't know what time it is, and I don't know why you're not outside on the beach. But so this will be an experiment to see if we get some people, if people show up, if people like this time slot. If not, I may move days. I don't know. Right now, I would like to do it at this time because Sundays are usually pretty free. I'm done watching the games. I got some time to talk. And yeah. And we are going to talk Peacemaker tonight. That's going to be our main topic and how it fits in with what James Gunn is doing. And I know a lot of people out there think the finale was disappointing. Other people liked it. So we'll get all into that. Also, Rick Flag. But before I jump into that, you got to understand, I am a sports fan. I'm a big sports fan. So I don't get to talk sports much with people. I don't have a lot of sports friends. I've even thought about doing a sports podcast as well. For a while, when I was working at Bleeding Cool, we started covering sports, and I started doing some of them and did the football and whatnot. But what happened the night before last at Dodger Stadium was historical. That's a good way to put it. Okay, Jay. Well, there's another vote for this time slot. Excellent. So, what happened at Dodger Stadium was historical. Shohei Ohtani, who is one of the most unique players ever to play baseball, did something unheard of. Now, a handful of people have hit 3 home runs in the NLDS, or the NLCS, yeah. And Kike Hernandez did it back in 2017. Babe Ruth did it once. And Babe Ruth is probably the closest comparison here is that Babe was a pitcher and a hitter. But by the time he was with the Yankees, he wasn't really pitching anymore. Shohei is still pitching. And on Friday, he pitched and hit. No one does that in the league anymore. There's designated hitters for both conferences, which I've never been a fan of. I like the pitchers hitting. But there he is. He's out there. He struck out the side in the first inning, walked over, put down his glove, put on his batting stuff, walked back out and hit a home run because he's the leadoff hitter. And like I said, he walked once and then he hit 2 more home runs in that game. He went 6 innings pitching. Think that was like 6.2 or 6.1 or something. Striking out 10. So can you imagine a pitcher striking out 10 batters and then hitting 3 home runs in the same game? Like I said, that's historical. That's amazing. It doesn't happen. So, as a student of the game, as someone who loves not just the Dodgers but baseball itself, and that was my sport when I was growing up. I'm more of a football fan now, but at the time, growing up, listening to Vin Scully on the radio, I used to lay in our dining room where we had the radio, and I would put it on, lay on the floor, with my Dodger hat on, and if the Dodgers weren't doing well, I'd take my hat off and put it back on, hoping to change the luck. And I listened to Vin Scully and Don Drysdale, and as they called the games, and I listened to all the way back to Steve Garvey and Ron Say and Davey Lopes, Bill Russell, Dusty Baker, Kenny Landreau, Rick Monday, Steve Yeager. You know, those were my Dodgers growing up, and it is pretty neat to see right now what they're doing. And I know there's some people out there that seems to think, hey, the Dodgers are ruining baseball. And it's like, well, no, the Dodgers are doing what's allowed by the rules. Every team can do this. Any team can do this. And most of the players in the Dodgers were with other teams and could have been re-signed by those teams. The Angels could have re-signed Shohei Ohtani and done the same contract. The Red Sox traded Mookie Betts. The Braves had Freddie Freeman, Max Muncy, Blake Snell was on a bunch of different teams. Trevor Glasnow, a bunch of different teams. So you can't really get mad at the Dodgers for just playing within the rules, right? I know it's like the New England Patriots. They're just really good, and you got to beat them straight up. But they're not doing anything illegal. They're not cheating. So, all right, that's pretty much all I'm going to talk about sports. So if you're a non-sports person, you're sitting going, "Why is he doing that?" I just needed someone to talk to about it. So, okay. Let's go to Peacemaker. Now, first thing, there's going to be spoilers, so let me put up the new spoiler banner. I don't want to upset anybody, so spoilers. There we go. So yeah, there's going to be spoilers because the season's over. You've had, more than a week to watch the show. I think that's fair. I'm kind of looking at everything Gunn has done. I think of the DCU, even though it starts with Creature Commandos, I think of it as what we've seen of what they showed as canon in Peacemaker season 1. At the opening of Peacemaker season 2, they do kind of a flashback, and everything in the flashback is canon. So the only thing that isn't canon is the appearance of the Justice League at the end. And they revamped, or they redid it so that it's the Justice Gang. And there's one mention of the Justice League, and they redid that to have her say Justice Gang. So I think you can count season 1, and I think you can count most of the Suicide Squad that James Gunn did, and maybe some of the first Suicide Squad. But I look at it this way. There's a part in season 2 where we see Rick Flags Jr., and we find out that he's currently dating the Enchantress, and that's from the original Suicide Squad movie. But since they're talking in the present tense and that she may still destroy stuff, I get the feeling that it didn't quite go the way the movie went, and we'll fill in as we go. I think what James Gunn needs to do is hire somebody to create a web page that's the continuity of the DCU. And every time something locks in as part of the continuity, you add it to the website. And if it's not, then you don't put it on there. And I think just build it as it goes, make it a living, breathing document. And James, I'd be happy to take the job if I'll do it. Anyway, all right. So Peacemaker season 2. It's very different from season 1. And if you've watched both, if you haven't watched it at all, this is geared more for adults. It's a more mature story. There's cursing, there's nudity, there's drug use. It's an HBO show. Just saying. But that said, it's also got some important stuff for the DCU. And it's really well written character story, especially season 2. Now, if you've seen the Suicide Squad, that's where you're introduced to Peacemaker, Chris Smith, played by John Cena. And in it, he's just kind of this big, goofy a-hole. You know? He and Bloodsport are trying to outshoot each other and show who the better shot is, who's the better killer. And it's a very one-dimensional character. He turns out to be kind of I don't want to say a bad guy, but he becomes a bit of an antagonist because information is there that if it got to the general populace, it would cause a lot of problems for the U.S. government. While Rick Flag Jr. decides that needs to get out to the people, Peacemaker is working for Amanda Waller, who said that cannot get out, so that put them at odds, and he becomes an antagonist to our heroes. So that's pretty, and is actually shot at one point, and we think he's dead, but there's a post-credit scene that shows he's still alive. And that sets up Peacemaker season 1. And we bring in all the characters from, Harcourt and Economos, who are both from the Suicide Squad movie. But then we also sprinkle in Vigilante and Adebayo. And Adebayo, we find out, is Waller's daughter. So this is all in season 1, and it's all really good stuff. And we find out that there's these aliens who are trying to take over the planet, and they've got this cow creature that is what, supplies their nourishment. It's a really straightforward sci-fi show, but at the same time, it's quirky and it's pure James Gunn. So you go into season 2 and you don't expect anything different. You expect it's going to be this quirky, adult, over-the-top show. Peacemaker's going to say a bunch of stuff that you're going to cringe at, and he's going to every once in a while have a moment of heart, but that's what you expect. What we got instead was a character who is completely lost. He is responsible for the death of his father. He is sort of responsible for the death of his brother when he was a kid. He killed Rick Flag Jr., and all he wants to be is a hero and wants a chance to redeem himself, and he doesn't get it. He doesn't get that opportunity. It gets, every chance he gets close to it, it gets pulled out from under him. And what we see is a character who, like I said, is lost. He's just trying to find some connection, some sense that he's worth a damn. And this season kind of strips him even further down. He thinks he's starting to have a relationship with Harcourt. They have a moment right before the, and we talk about it, but we don't see it until the end. But you have this this thing where he's just trying to get a chance to redeem himself. He's looking for a second chance. And it comes to him in the form of another world. When he was a kid, he and his brother and his dad found this alien who was carrying this little doorway machine to a quantum unfolding chamber. And it uses technology to allow you to travel to this place with a bunch of doors, and those doors lead to other dimensions, other alternate realities. And one day, while drunk, he stumbles into the quantum unfolding chamber because it's snowing outside and Eagly wants to fly around. So he takes him in there instead of outside. And Eagly leads him to another door that looks identical to the one he lives in and has a rack of Peacemaker helmets outside, just like his. But it turns out it's for a different dimension. It's a dimension where his dad is still alive, his brother was never killed, and he goes in there and just discovers a different take, a world where maybe he could be happy, a world where what he did didn't matter and he had a chance for that redemption. And but right when he was about to leave, the Peacemaker from that world shows up and tries to kill him. And there's a fight, and the Peacemaker from Earth 2, and we're going to call it Earth 2 because that's what they called it. But if you've watched the show, you know it's not Earth 2. It's a very specific Earth. But over on that other Earth, Earth 2, he discovers he's a good relationship with his dad. His dad's not that bad, not the horrible piece of S that he was on this planet. His brother's alive, and he's getting a good relationship with him. He finds out Harcourt, who he can't seem to make heads or tails with in this reality, they have a relationship, and he can bring that back up. And it's a lot of stuff going on over there. And he's calling it the perfect reality. But of course, and a lot of people picked up on this pretty early because they're looking at the background and they're like, all the extras in this scene are white. There isn't a single person of color anywhere in this universe. And if that didn't clue you in, he's on Earth X, the dimension or the reality where the Nazis won World War II. So, but he doesn't see it. And like I said, a lot of viewers and audience picked up on that, but they played it close to the vest. There was little things like there are little American flags with swastikas instead of the stars. But when we see them early on, they're rolled up. So you see it's in a flag, but you can't see the star pattern. And it's kind of clever how they did that. And it was subtle. So, the whole season is about that, but also Rick Flag Sr. Rick Flag Sr., who we met in the Creature Commandos, is hell-bent on getting revenge for his son, doesn't know who did it until Adebayo outs Amanda Waller and the whole butterfly thing. And we end up with Rick Flag Sr. becoming the head of Argus. And in doing so, he gets access to the files. And he knows that Peacemaker's the one that killed his son. So that becomes his mission, to use Argus and to use the resources to stop Peacemaker. Now, the interesting thing is this subplot comes up with the quantum unfolding chamber. And I don't think they necessarily know he has it. They figure it out, and that becomes a major thing, not only in the show, but it's going to be a major thing for the DCU altogether. And we'll get into that, but that's all part of that finale. So you have this series where Chris is just trying to, you know, he's having these moments with his father and his brother that he never would have had on our reality. And he's having with Harcourt. He's, and people like him over there and he's a hero. And that's all he's ever wanted. So that's why he's kind of turned a blind eye to what's going on over there. He's just looking at the good. He's not being suspicious, which is how it gets past him. Though there's one absolutely hilarious moment in the penultimate episode where they realize Harcourt's over there, the our reality Harcourt's there, and she's like, "Have you noticed there's no people of color?" He's like, "Well, how was I supposed to know that?" And she looks at the desk. She goes, "The copy of Mein Kampf on everybody's desk." And he goes, "In my defense, I don't look at books." And she turns around. She goes, "The giant mural of Hitler?" And we turn, and it's a wall we haven't seen in all the scenes of this room. And yeah, it's got a giant picture of Hitler on the wall in front of the United States Capitol and stuff. And it's a comedic beat in a very serious idea, but it just hits well. It's really well done moment. Anyway, so the main 7 episodes of the season is about Rick Flag Sr. It's about Peacemaker. It's about him accepting consequences for his actions. It's him coming to believe that he's cursed, that everything around him goes wrong, that he hurts everybody he loves. And then it's about those that love him coming to him and showing him it's not true. The 11th Street kids have to convince him that he matters. He matters to them. And it is some of the best acting John Cena's ever done. It's some really good writing, and it's a strong season. And I think for most people, if it would have stopped at 7, they would have loved it. The problem is that Gunn said a few things about the final 3 episodes. And of course, everybody, the online people who make shows based around this stuff, all ran with it and kind of set expectations to be like here. Oh yeah, we're going to have a big cameo in the finale, and this, that, and that. Well, if you're James Gunn and you look at what you did, you go, I had a big cameo in episode 6. I never said where the cameo was. And to him, Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor showing up in a TV show is a huge cameo. And in a ways it is. It would be like Thor showing up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We got Sif instead, but the idea being you take someone who is basically a film actor in a large role and you have them show up in a TV show. So yeah, that's a huge cameo. And there's other people from the Superman movie that show up, other people that worked for Luthor, and it all ties into the movie. And even the final scenes, a lot of the final scenes take place in that little command center that Luthor ran his entire operation from. So yeah. And he also introduced 2 huge concepts in the finale that I think people are just kind of skipping over because they're like, well, we didn't see Superman. Blue Beetle didn't show up. How come we didn't get Booster Gold? And it's like, well, those things weren't promised to you. He told you that there was going to be a lot of crazy stuff, and that some big, and a big cameo. And you got your big cameo in episode 6. You got other cameos from people from the Superman movie, and you got introduced to 2 big concepts, 2 important things from the DC Comics. So if you haven't picked it up by now, I actually like the finale because the finale is where everything pays off. It's the emotional payoff. There's not any big action scenes. Those all take place earlier. Um, there's not any, gunfights or anything like that. The closest thing we get is when Argus is sending people into the different portals and they have to fight back against these little imps or zombies and stuff like that. And they're just short little scenes to show what all the different realities are. The finale is more focused on answering the emotional questions. What happened to Harcourt and Peacemaker on the boat that we got alluded to? What happened, why did she, why is she saying that it didn't mean anything and he seems to think it meant everything? We finally get to see that. And we also got 2 concert footages from Nelson, yes, the band from I Can't Live Without Your Love and Affection, and Foxy Shazam, who does the opening credits. So it's a very different finale, but also what we get is Rick Flag and is working more and more with Luther's people. And we end up with them creating a portal that you go through to another world that they call Salvation. And if you haven't read the comic series Salvation Run, it is a story where Rick Flag and Amanda Waller start putting metahumans through this portal, and metahuman villains, and force them that this planet Salvation is their prison planet. There's no bars, there's no cells, there's no guards. Basically, they get thrown onto the planet and go, good luck. Hope you survive. And that's from the comics, too. And that's what Rick is setting up. A planet to throw metahumans onto. And right now they're talking about metahumans with problems or legal issues or villains. But the fact is that there's probably going to try to put some of the heroic metahumans on there too, like Hawk Girl, who killed the head of a foreign nation, or Guy Gardner and Metamorpho, who both interfered in political things, or Superman, who did the same thing. I mean, you get the feeling that what Rick Flag wants to do is put all of metahumans over there. Now, the interesting thing in the comics is it starts off, we got a planet full of villains, and they're going to fight each other and for survival, and who's going to team up and stuff like that. But it's like, by the way, we've got a twist. And the twist is this planet, this Salvation, is supposed to be this little paradise. Turns out it's a training ground for Darkseid for his parademons. And you hear at the end of the finale, John Cena's character, Peacemaker, is on the planet by himself. And then you hear these horrible roars in the distance. And you're like, there's creatures on here, or there's parademons, one of the two. And maybe we're drifting towards Darkseid, because the next thing that happened after Salvation Run in the comics was Final Crisis, which was Darkseid coming with the anti-life equation. Or it's just set up for some other kind of huge story. But we're getting Salvation. And the other thing we get is that the 11th Street kids use the money that Vigilante has been stockpiling to create Checkmate, which is another huge organization from the comics. It's a spy agency originally started by Amanda Waller, and now it's being started by her daughter to deal with metahumans and stuff like that. And it's basically the anti-Argus group. So here's 2 huge things that get introduced in the end for going forward. And you can see, Salvation, Rick Flag made the Salvation prison planet set up in conjunction with Lex Luthor. So, of course, that's going to play into the Man of Tomorrow storyline that's coming up in the next movie. James Gunn has said that kind of stuff will also play into Lanterns, whatnot. So these are the big pieces of the puzzle. And that's what we got in the finale. And I'm like, isn't that what we wanted? Did it really matter if Blue Beetle showed up instead? I think we got big pieces to what's coming in the future, and that's more important to me. So that's my thoughts on the finale. I think it was not what people expected. It wasn't this big battle royale. Like season one finale was a battle between the 11th Street Kids and the Butterflies and all of the, you know, all of that and the destruction of the cow. And this was more subtle. This was more, you know, let's wrap up the emotional moments for our characters. Let's wrap up, the character growth and set up the future. And I think it did that very well. And I actually really liked the finale. Um, I also want to address Rick Flag Sr. Let me get a drink first, though. People talk about Rick Flag and how, you know, well, we met him in Creature Commandos. He was a good guy, and now he's a bad guy. It's like, really? A, I don't think things are that black and white. And B, in Creature Commandos, he's doesn't know who killed his son, doesn't know any of the story behind it. He just knows that his son is dead. And he's doing his mission that he is told to do. Now, between that and the end of Peacemaker, what happens? Well, one is he goes up against a metahuman in Clayface, gets his back broken, and is in the hospital. Now, right there, you have to wonder what got changed. We never saw him in the hospital. We never saw how his recovery was. Hell, maybe he is Clayface now. I don't know. But put that aside. Then in the Superman movie, we see he's healthy and he's still not totally against the metahumans, but he does have a problem with powerful beings and stuff like that. And then by the Peacemaker, he finds out that his son was killed by Peacemaker. And, he wants a place to put them. So I can see the evolution of the character. I can see him because I don't think he was necessarily a good guy in the beginning because they're like, oh, he was trying to protect the princess from, from Amanda Waller because, he thought she was good and Amanda thought she was bad. Well, first thing, it turns out that Amanda was right and Rick was wrong. Second, he was also having sex with the very young princess. And third, he was at no point did he have a problem throwing any of the creature commandos under the bus when he needed them to or to sacrifice them. So I don't think he was necessarily all that good of a guy in Creature Commandos. Just saying. You might have noticed. So, is he different? Was it totally out of character for him to do, create salvation and work with Lex Luthor and stuff like that? Maybe. Maybe it's not him, like I said, or maybe it is. We'll have to get more to find out. He'll pop up in Man of Steel or Man of Tomorrow, and he'll pop up in other movies and stuff like that. He's going to be a reoccurring character. So like I said, I don't have a problem with Peacemaker. I know a lot of people were down on the finale. I liked it. I thought it was strong. I thought it really wrapped things up well. Now, what does it mean for the MCU going forward? Well, we know that we're going to get Lanterns, we're going to get Clayface, we're going to get Supergirl. Those are all next year. And then we're going to get Man of Tomorrow. So Why are they doing a Clayface movie? Well, he says because they came up with an idea they really loved. But it seems like it's kind of random, you know? Because they could have thrown it into the Matt Reeves universe and done the same story. Why this one? Well, to me, it's because maybe Clayface is an important character. And maybe that also goes towards maybe the Rick Flag currently is Clayface. And if he's Clayface, it would make more sense that he was sitting there and working with Lex Luthor and partying with the people. But that's just a thought. Either way, Clayface. But lanterns. This is a little interesting thing, and I got to be careful how I do this because so they showed a lanterns wrap gift that was given out, and it's a standard hat like this with the Green lantern on it. But inside of the lantern, in the center, were a series of concentric circles. Now, I don't know who it was, but somebody online looked at that and went, hey, that looks familiar. And what he was referring to was a character from Darwin Cook's New Frontier called the Center. And when it was a symbol of that character. Well, when he posted that with the image and that thought, Warner Brothers hit him with a copyright thing, and he had to take it down. Now, other people have posted the same picture of the hat. I don't think they got the copyright. He's the only one to mention the New Frontier. And if you're not familiar with New Frontier, it's a book you should read. It's an amazing trade paper story by Darwin Cook, who wrote it and drew it. It's a good connection between Silver Age and Golden Age. And there's also a movie that does it too, so you could watch the movie if you want. But there's the center is an island, and it kind of grew up in Earth and then kind of came up, and it's got abilities like telekinesis and telepathy, and it feeds on people's fears and stokes fears and stuff. And it's also covered in dinosaurs. Kind of cool. So, because there used to be a place in Marvel called Dinosaur Island or in DC, and I think that became part of it. So, is that what's being introduced in the Lantern series? Is that why it's on Earth to set up that character? Is that going to become? Is that just for that, or is that become a bigger thing too? There's a lot of really big concepts being played with in the DCU right now. So, if it just seems like Gunn is in the middle of something, and if you're judging what's going on, it feels like you're judging a part of it. It's like you put five pieces of the puzzle on the table and then try to just judge the picture. So let's see. Ed says, did you see DC tease the rights to some Dynamite characters like Vampire Least? Homelander, I'll be so happy if they do a one shot of Superman kicking the crap out of Homelander. Fingers crossed. I saw something about that, but I haven't had a chance to really look into it too much. I know Nick Barucci said that it's up to DC what they do with those characters. So, hey guys, I need about 30 seconds. So I'm going to go off screen for about 30 seconds. I'll be right back, but I'll keep talking, but I just got to go off screen for a second. Be right back. Okay, I'm back. How was that? I don't know if you guys could hear me when I was doing that or not, but all right, let's take down the spoiler banner because I'm not talking spoilers anymore. Let's put back up that one. Because if you haven't signed up for the Obsidian Moon's newsletter, you should have by now. By the way, that's still coming along. Um, I got kind of stuck for a little bit. There's a major thing that happens about a third of the way into the book. And it really kind of, I had to build up to it and really, it was an emotional thing that happens. And then I realized I'm making this huge change. How do I move forward? And that's what's kind of got me stuck. I wrote the next chapter, so I'm starting to move forward, but I just haven't really been able to sit down and start knocking out pages again. But I'm hoping to do that this week. So Chaos Game is still in the works. My artist for the cover, Jason, had a small snafu yesterday. He's been working on sketches for the cover, but he broke the tip of his collarbone. Believe it or not, stopping somebody from trying to steal from a AMPM. Yeah. So good on him for being heroic, bad on him for getting hurt. But so that's going to slow us down just a tiny bit. But like I said, I haven't been getting my part of it done either, so I can't fault Jason. But we'll get that done. Again, I'm hoping to start the Kickstarter for that soon, maybe November or December at the latest. Maybe after the first of the year. I don't know if I want to do a Kickstarter at Christmas. It does seem like a bad idea, doesn't it? Anyway, so all right, you guys got any questions, thoughts, comments you want to ask besides Ed's comment about the DC Dynamite thing? I got to talk to Nick about that, see what's going on. I haven't had a chance to talk to Nick very much lately. With everything going on with Diamond, he's got a lot on his plate. So, I'm not doing as much for them right now while they get their stuff sorted out. So we'll see how it all pans out. I would love to write some of it. I just want to write. I want more stuff to write. I got into comics originally because I want to write superheroes. And I've had very little chance to write superheroes. I mean, I've written a couple of short stories for the Phantom and the Green Hornet, and I got to write Shadowhawk for Jim Valentino. And that's about it. So, I would love to do more superhero stuff. The novel Blythe is pretty close to being a superhero book as well. But yeah, I don't know what's going on with the writing. I'm working on a few projects. I'm trying to get some things going. But right now I'm focused on the Obsidian Moon because that's what I can control. If somebody calls me up and goes, "Hey, Dan, we need a script for this. You need a book for that," I'm there. It's the way it works for me. But, right now I can control what I do for Obsidian Moon. And so that's what's got my attention right now. It doesn't mean I don't want to do more stuff. I absolutely do. I pitched a new book to Ethereal. I think there's a Kickstarter going right now for the second Crimson Sales issue, third Crimson Sales issue. That is definitely a more mature book, by the way. If you've been getting Crimson Sales, if you haven't, it is on the mature side. So, but yeah, I would love to write more superheroes, and I'd love to do like a Green Arrow story for, Green Arrow teams up with Red Sonja. That'd be fun. Oh, I like that idea. Green and red. They get a Christmas story. Set at Christmas, Green Arrow finds himself thrown back into time to the days of Red Sonja, the Hyperion Age. Green Arrow in a Hyperion Age comic. That would be cool. Yeah, I like that. I could definitely do something with that. Somebody let Nick know. So, all right, guys, I'm pretty much covered what I wanted to cover. Unless you guys have any other questions, I may wrap it up there. Um, TV wise, I'm watching Only Murders in the Building, the fifth season, sixth season. And I got to say, I still like the show, but I'm not loving this particular season. It doesn't feel like a murder mystery to me. Um, so yeah, I'm a little disappointed in the season so far. I'm hoping it turns it around in the last two episodes and really nails it, but it could be better. But still enjoying it. Still love seeing Steve Martin and Martin Short and Selena Gomez. Um, what else am I watching? I have the Fantastic Four. I've not watched it yet, but I have it on disc. I do have a question, but I think I already know the answer, but I'll ask anyway. Oh, go ahead, Ed. So I got to watch Fantastic Four. Um, it's just a matter of finding a time that, Lisa and I can commit to a couple hours to watch it, but I really do want to see it. All right, Ed says, been hearing about a Warner Brothers buyout or merger that could lead to another restructuring of the DC movies and replace Gunn. Well, okay. What's going on is Warner Brothers is and isn't for sale. It's been for sale since they bought it because the Discovery who bought it wants to make their money back. And if somebody came along and offered a big chunk of cash, they would take it. So, and Paramount made a bid, and Paramount is a new group in a sense that Skydance bought Paramount. They're now Paramount, and they want to acquire, but they put in a bid, and Warner Brothers said no. And I hope they don't get it because I first thing I'd like to see as many different studios as possible because then Paramount could then go out and get the Valiant characters or some other group of characters and do something with them, and make so that we don't have just everything under one or two roofs. That said, I think whoever comes in and whether someone makes a legit bid and buys Warner Brothers, could they restructure it? Yes. Will they? I don't think so. Because for the first time in a long time, it looks like these characters are starting to pay off. You've got good stuff going on with the Batman. You've had a successful Superman movie. You're having successful television shows. It would be stupid to come in and kick the cart over when it's rolling along. If it starts to falter, then yeah, you throw them out and bring in the next people. But Disney did that. Disney bought Marvel and then kept their hands off of it. And Disney did that with Pixar and basically Star Wars. They're like, we're going to we're going to give you the resources and let you do your thing and you make us money and we'll be happy. Now, when they started to interfere, like when Bob Chapek started telling them, well, we need more content, that's when things went off the rails. And now they're trying to get back to it, back to where they were. But that's the key is if things are doing well, even if there's a buyout, the odds are they're not going to change it. So it's kind of like in sports. And we're going to turn this back around to sports. If you're buying a football team and the team has won, made the playoffs the last 3 years in a row, made one Super Bowl but didn't win it, You don't go in there and fire the coach and fire the general manager and go, okay, we're going to do it my way, because their way is working. But if you are owning the Cleveland Browns and you look at their record, or the Jets, and you go, are you guys really 0-7? You go, yeah, let's clear house and put in some people that I believe in. So that's the way it works. So I don't see them doing that. If somebody buys it out, it would have to start to falter for them to make the changes. But then crazier things have happened. It says, see, in the articles I'm reading about the merger buyout, keep saying due to Superman's lackluster performance. I thought Superman did well, so didn't know. Okay. You can look at those numbers that Superman did and interpret them any way you want. You can spin them to be good. You can spin them to be bad. The numbers, 600 and some odd thousand, 670,000 or whatever it was, 630. For where the DC universe was when the movie came out, and for what the audience is right now, the audience is much smaller than it used to be. And you're also talking about not having the Asian markets that they used to have, not having the Russian markets. So, these are the difference between Man of Steel and Superman is literally China. That's the difference. Where Man of Steel made more money was in China. Right now, there's such an anti-U.S. sentiment that U.S. films aren't doing as well overseas. That's not a fault of James Gunn, of David Cornsweet, or anybody other than the political climate. So, that said, the movie didn't need to make $1 billion, but that seems to be the marker. Oh, you need to do $1 billion to say no. Very few movies are going to do $1 billion. It's just not that industry anymore. But you look at the fact that it did 600 million. Well, like I said, I think it was 630 or 670. And then it went on to VOD and became the highest VOD, number one in the VOD market. And then it went on to HBO Max, and it's the number one streamed movie. People love this movie. It got an 80 some odd critic score, a 90 some odd fan score. It is by all measures a successful movie. The problem is there's a group of people out there that don't want it to be successful because they think that it can turn it back to being a Snyder thing. And it's not going to happen. And by the way, I think Zack Snyder is feeding into that just as much, because he posted just the other day a picture of Henry Cavill as Superman going, Henry Cavill is Superman. Not anymore. He's not. He was. He's not now. So, yeah, I think you're on the right track, man. All right, guys. I'm going to wrap it up here. Thanks for tuning in. I will try to be back at this exact time next week. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell anybody who has a computer that might turn it on. Let's see if we can get some numbers up and some audience. So thank you, guys. Please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't. And I will see you guys next week. Hopefully we'll talk about Fantastic Four and anything else you guys want to talk about. Have a great time. Ed, I hope you're feeling better. And I will see you all soon. Good night, everybody.